Recreating and reverse engineering the lighting from film stills can be a beneficial exercise for any cinematographer or photographer. For example, let's take this still from Inherent Vice, shot by Robert Elswit. The most obvious thing about this shot is the soft blue light on the face. This is motivated by the evening light from a window, camera left. We set up a decent sized bounce light to ensure the light is just as soft, comparable to the original image. Using the RGB function on our LED panels, we cooled our lights off to a similarly toned blue to match the film still and complete the look of evening light through a window. The next thing we might notice about the original shot is the warmer top light hitting the hair. This is from a tungsten lamp just above the head. We replicated this by simply using a smaller pocket LED panel set to 3200 Kelvin. Finally, there's a very subtle soft touch of warmer light filling in some of the shadows on the left side of the face. To achieve this in our own image, we simply bounced an LED panel with a softbox and grid from an already warm coloured wall. This provided a very similar, subtle graduation of warm light to the shadows on the dark side of the face. So we've managed to recreate the shot from Inherent Vice by breaking down the separate elements of lighting making up the scene, and implementing an estimation of how these were created on set. But if we zoom out to see the whole shot, the similarities diminish a little. We've shot a slightly different angle, probably at a different focal length. The denim is a different shade of blue, our lamplight is a little harder, the sofa is different, our subject isn't lying on a rug. We could beat ourselves up about not being able to perfectly recreate this film still, but I don't think that's helpful. In fact, I think trying to perfectly recreate something is somewhat detrimental to making something your own. Since we're looking at our shot as a direct comparison to the original film scene, we're going to be picking out faults all day long. We've even colour graded to ensure we get as close as possible to the film's original colours, but our shot isn't Inherent Vice, and it doesn't need to be. So let's change the colour grade to something we feel would suit our own shot a little better. Now we've pushed the window light a little more toward green. It kind of looks like TV light, and maybe TV light is what we need for a scene we're shooting. Viewing our image in this way, we can see how rather than a straight copy, we've actually taken influence from the lighting and contrasting colours of the scene from Inherent Vice, and used that influence to make our own image for our own scenario. On ShotDeck, we can search a whole database of film stills, not necessarily to recreate an image from a film perfectly, but to get inspiration for our own shots. Take this image from Ain't Them Bodies Saints, shot by Bradford Young. Often, we might struggle to create depth in our images when shooting against walls or in small spaces. But look what's going on here. The cinematographer has shot into the corner of the room and lit the scene with a graduation of light, further from the camera to closer, lighter to darker. Both these elements create a feeling of depth in the image. Let's take a look at our own shot. We've set up a similar set piece with the couch and lamp, only we've chosen to show the lamp in shot. We've wrapped the light already coming from a door behind our camera with a large piece of bleached muslin bounce material. This made for a very subtle fill light in our shadows, allowing us to have a dark base to our lighting, while still retaining a little detail similar to the film still. You can see that the lighting in the film is motivated by a lamp just off camera with a soft, controlled source, highlighting the edges of the characters and further emphasizing the depth in the image. Since we can't see this lamp, it could even be that it's the source itself lighting the whole scene. But that's not true for our shot, and we're going to need to augment our lamp with extra lighting to bring out our subject. We boomed a small, gridded octabox above, pointed away from the wall, creating a small pool of controlled light. and forming an upstage pattern of light on our subject, creating depth, linking to our lamp, and making for a similarly positioned and motivated lighting setup as the still we're borrowing from. We can see in the film still that the light helping to shape the characters and scene is actually filling the entire frame, but gradually dropping off in brightness, following the light to dark graduation in the image. Currently our image drops off into near total darkness toward the bottom left of the frame. So we boomed another, larger gridded octabox above, at a much lower exposure than our smaller one, to cover the rest of the image, fill in some of these shadows, and continue this soft, shaped light along our subject. Now side by side, we can see our image has taken on a different look to the film still. We have different set pieces, subject positioning, lighting positioning, colour scheme, colour grade, framing, but you can see the elements that we've used from this film still as inspiration for our own look. And this could then go on to form the basis of the rest of the scene. Before we take a look at a process Roger Deakins uses in his work, and create a culmination of our film still influences, parts 1, 2, 4 and 5 of my Lighting with Colour mini course are on YouTube now, but you can also download it all with an exclusive part 3 at my website. Or become a patron and stream the 46-minute tutorial in full. And a huge thank you to all my patrons. You all help to keep this channel going, and I really appreciate your support. If you're seeking inspiration from a cinematographer in particular, an online library of film stills like ShotDeck is very useful, as we can search for that cinematographer specifically, pulling up a bunch of stills from different films shot by, in this case, Roger Deakins. Since we're able to access this library of images, we can go away and do some further research on how some of these shots were lit and the processes the cinematographer might have used. We figured out that Deakins sometimes uses a cove of bounced muslin material around his subjects, with each light bouncing from the cove slightly reduced in brightness, to create a natural looking, graduated fall off of light on the face. This is a technique I've employed in my own YouTube tutorials, and I bounce from muslin material quite regularly, as it makes for a very pleasing quality of light. So this single film still, and the research we did into it, has actually influenced the lighting in all of these shots. So why don't we take something we've learned from each of these film stills and put them together in one shot? We have our subject sat at a table, staring at a photograph, but the shot feels a bit flat as we're relatively close to the wall. Well, we learned a nice way to compose a shot against a flat background in the still from Ain't Them Body Saints. So let's go ahead and implement a similar composition. This feels much more dynamic and gives our image more depth. Right now, our scene is just being lit from above by a hard ceiling lamp, so we'll introduce a table lamp to the shot, so we have a motivation for any lighting we add to the scene. But we can already see we're not going to get much contrast in our image by keeping all the lighting warm. Thinking back to the film still from Inherent Vice, we found a great way to create contrast in our shot through contrasting colours, cool and warm. As it's evening outside, let's turn off all the house lights and let a touch of that cool evening light come through in the background. Since the evening window light is visible in our scene, let's make our fill light cool too. We bounced an LED panel with a similarly cool blue colour temperature from a large sheet of bleached muslin material, as close to our camera as we could get it, to make for a base level of fill light in our scene, motivated by the evening light coming through the back window. So all we've got to add now is our key light. Since we've already used a large length of bleached muslin material for our fill, why don't we take some inspiration from Roger Deakins and extend this around the room with some more muslin material, and bounce a warmer LED panel from the section of material closer to our subject, to motivate the light from our table lamp. So we've used the cove of lighting we researched earlier, but we've built on what we learned by adding a colour contrast to it, forming a graduated light across the face. But instead of representing one light source, ours goes from warm to cool, to represent the two separate practical elements of light in our scene. Think about how we put this shot together. We didn't get here by already knowing about all the elements we needed to make the image look the way it does. It was created by a process of inspiration, recreation, and the forming of our own practices and techniques, culminating in a shot that becomes very much our own. Having an initial film still to pull ideas from can be ideal when you're looking for inspiration. It can also help you to develop your own looks and processes, and this applies to any creative field. From July 1st to July 31st, ShotDeck are holding their Recreations contest, where ShotDeck users can enter their own shot recreations and have them judged by cinematographers Natasha Breyer, Greg Fraser, Eric Messerschmidt, and director Todd Phillips, with prizes from several sponsors. Head over to their blog to find out more. Support my channel on Patreon and get extra lighting and shoot breakdowns, along with early, ad-free, and extended YouTube videos. I color grade my work using Deakins. Use my code RobEllis to get 10% off. I use music from AudioSocket in my videos. Click my referral link in the video description and use the code RobEllis when you sign up for a free month of the best and most diverse range of stock music available. Use my code RobEllis over at Zyro to get up to 71% off your website or storefront with 3 extra months free, along with a custom domain for a year. I use ArtGrid for stock footage. Get an extra 2 months free when you sign up using my link in the video description.